So the problem is going to look familiar in our classwork. What we're going to do is do the same 6 problems that we did in the first classwork, but now we're just going to do all the steps to complete a hypothesis test. And you've already done the first 3 steps, okay? And that will help you go through it a little more quickly because that part is understood by you a lot better. So example 1. The drug Lipitor is meant to reduce cholesterol and LDL cholesterol. In clinical trials, 19 out of 863 patients taking Lipitor daily complained of flu-like symptoms. Suppose that it's known that 1.9% of all patients taking competing drugs experience flu-like symptoms. Determine if there's sufficient evidence to conclude that more than 1.9% of Lipitor users experience flu-like symptoms as a side effect at the alpha is 0.01 level of significance. Okay, so we're going to go through this like it's a new problem. First, is it a mean or a proportion? We don't see the word mean in here at all, and we do see a percent, so that tells us we're dealing with a proportion. So we know our null hypothesis and our alternative hypothesis are going to be about P because it's a proportion. It tells us that there's 1.9% who take the competing drugs, and we want to know about more than 1.9%. So we're going to write this as a decimal, 0.019. We've also told that it's alpha equals 0.01 level of significance. So now we can fill out our proportion data for our sample. Our proportion sample was X is 19 with a sample size of 863. So that's all the same from last time. We're going to move down and look at the second part. Skipping number 4 because we don't have to do number 4. So now we're going to use StatCrunch. So that's the new part, is using StatCrunch. All right, just logging in. Okay, so we had a proportion test. You can just look at step 2 and step 3 to put all the data in. Don't have to look at the top anymore, steps 1 through 3. So we now have a proportion test. Proportion stats, 1 sample with summary. So we have to put in the number of successes, and this is all part of number 3. Just put in the numbers that are there, 19. Number of observations, 863. And now we're clicking on hypothesis test for P. We have to put in our P here, which is 0.019. And it automatically changes it below, so you don't have to do that. And then we were looking at, was it greater for our alternative hypothesis? You can't see, oh, you know what it did? Sorry, I will fix that. It did the first window, but not the second one. Thank you. Better? All right, I'll go back through that. I'll do it over. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so we go into StatCrunch, proportion stats. One, you're not seeing it? Oh, let's do that again. Now can you see it? Okay, sorry. So we go into StatCrunch, proportion stats, 1 sample with summary. So this looks the same as when we did the confidence intervals. We look at step 3, and we can write right in our 19 over 863. Click on hypothesis test. Go look at step 2 where we wrote down the hypothesis and just change it to the number that's there, 0.019. And notice it changes the second number for you. So you just need to change this to the proper sign, which is a greater than sign. Okay, so it's pretty simple. And click compute. Oop, we're missing something. Oh, I put 2 decimal places. Here we go. Better. So we get our hypothesis test, which should match. This should match your step 3, or step 2, excuse me. This should match your step 2. And we are given our z-stat here. This is called your test statistic. And our p-value of 0.2582. So if you look in step 5 on the sheet, those are the numbers we need to write in. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that. And I don't see the sheet. Okay, 1 second. There it is. Okay, so we go back to our sheet and we write in our test statistic and our p-value. So it tells you right what you need to do. Use StatCrunch, either t-stat or proportion stat. We're going to use proportion in this case. And then our test statistic was z equals 0.649, and our p-value is 0.2582. So is our p-value less than or greater than alpha? It's greater than. So we do not reject the null hypothesis. So we go down here on the bottom that says, if you can't reject the null hypothesis, there is not sufficient evidence to make a conclusion. Okay, so it gives you the statement you need. So you're going to look for what are we trying to say? We don't have sufficient evidence to support the claim. And in this case, our claim was that more than 1.9% of Lipitor users experience flu-like symptoms. Any questions on this second part? This is the new part. Okay. So really the outline of step 1 to 3 help you put everything into StatCrunch. You write your results down here. From our p-value and our alpha above, we choose one of these. And then based on that, you go to the corresponding result below. The second one goes to cannot reject. The first one goes to you can reject.